No.
Good evening, all. My name is Paul Heller. I'm editor-in-chief of Blue Heron Book Works, and tonight we want to welcome you to Social Distancing. This is our Valentine's Day edition. And I'm pleased that we have with us tonight three of our authors. Each one is going to read from one of their romantic stories. We have Rose Ellen Moore, who's the owner of R.C. Moore Vintage. It's a wonderful vintage clothing place located in Hellertown, PA. She's a milliner, she's an artist, and most recently she authored a book called I Want to Live Forever, which is a collection of stories behind the clothing she bought. Rose Ellen thinks that the clothing incarnates the people who owned it, and she's going to tell you about them. Vincent Francone is here. Vincent is a professor of writing and literature at Roosevelt University. He is the poetry review editor of another Chicago magazine. He's the author of two wonderful books, Like a Dog and A Soft Lunacy. And our third guest tonight is Bathsheba Monk. She's the CEO and founder of Blue Heron Book Works. And she's the author of the Chicago Tribune Best Book of the Year, Now You See It, Stories from Cokesville. And her second novel, Nude Walker, has just been optioned for a feature film by a production company in Hollywood. Yay.
Ooh.
Welcome all, and thank you for being here. We're going to start with Rose Ellen. Rose, what are you going to read us tonight?
Well, I have a portion from my book, which is a little different, but I thought it was one of the most, it was a tender story. And so may I just start?
Yes.
Go ahead, Rose.
Okay. We had gone to the home of a woman who had passed away in her 90s. She had 3 children. She was married one time and had died a few years. He had died a few years before her. Her children had wonderful things to say about her. And as I went through her things one at a time, they told story after story of their wonderful mother who had gone to church, was a member of the Women's Civic Club. She did charity work and all of these beautiful, amenable things that good women do. And then we came to the trunk in the closet. The children thought they were Halloween costumes. The first one I pulled out was a rubber cat suit. Today it would have been made out of latex or pleather, but this was from the 1950s, so it was some kind of rubber material, and it was very thick. And I would imagine very hot. There was ropes, there were whips, but wait, there's more. There were photos, lots of photos of mom and dad, of dad sitting on a saddle tied up with an apron on, mom with boots on and a bikini, Sub and Dom living in the suburbs and raising kids. And lucky me got to find the trunk. The 3 siblings tried their best to laugh it off, but I could see the tears swell and the humiliation at having a stranger finding their beloved parents in these roles. At first, I didn't know what to say, but I don't judge anyone, and I don't label anyone. People are people, and sometimes people do things to escape or find happiness, or maybe in this case, they just had some fun together. So I said to the siblings, wow, you had some great parents. They were so open-minded, fun and daring, and they seemed to really love each other. They must have had a really terrific marriage. And the kids went on to tell me that they really did. And they were best friends and partners in everything. They also expressed their embarrassment about finding their parents' toys. And I said they were a married couple that shared something between themselves and no one else. This was their thing. It didn't hurt anyone, and it probably made their marriage stronger. They didn't have to go outside their marriage to find satisfaction. They met each other's needs in every way. What a testament to true love. And the kids were silent, and I could tell they felt better, but they swore me to secrecy, and they would not let me take the rubber cat suit. Damn, and I was looking forward to wearing it. I think that was one of my favorite stories.
Oh, Rose, that's a wonderful story.
Oh, gosh. You never know what you're going to find in a trunk.
That's right, yeah.
Right.
Wonderful. I Want to Live Forever. It's about the clothing that tells you stories about the people who own it. That's a wonderful story, Rose. Rose, what's your website address?
www.rcmorevintage.com.
Say it again, please. One more time.
www.rcmorevintage.com.
Everybody, there you have it. Go
Does
see
it look
Rose.
like that?
She's an extraordinary character.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Vincent,
Hello.
what are you up to tonight? What are you going to read?
I'm going to read a little bit from The Soft Lunacy, the book that Blue Heron was nice enough to publish. And it's not really a romantic book because most of the relationships are detailed and there are failed relationships, but it does end with a story that is, I think, appropriate and was kind of requested. So I'm more than happy to read from that.
Yay.
Assuming I can find the right page. All right, this is called How Not to Propose Marriage. 2010, Tunisia. When traveling through Tunisia, one should not carry an engagement ring, at least not for very long. And if one is in the position of having an engagement ring with them, and if they are looking to keep that ring a secret, then perhaps a better place to store the ring could be found in the inside of a slim book of poems. I know a thing or two about this. I visited Tunisia a year before the Arab Spring Revolution that would spread most famously to Egypt. It's unfair to make blanket statements, even when they're complimentary, based on a small data set, but here goes. Tunisians are incredibly friendly and close to masochistic when it comes to making guests feel welcome. During the course of our time in Tunis, our host, Ali, procured a room for us in a home occupied by some family members. Mohammed and Noor, our incredibly generous hosts, sacrificed their master bedroom and a good deal of their personal comfort for us. They didn't say a word when we started each day with a shower, though I now suspect our cavalier use of their water, probably an expensive luxury, was presumptuous. Such ugly Americans. One evening, Noor hurt her ankle. We insisted that she sleep in her own bed that night, but her response was an emphatic no. We couldn't persuade her to leave the couch. I appealed to her son, Ayman, with whom I'd been spending considerable time playing poker or discussing The Simpsons and Metallica. Your mother is being generous to a fault. She's made up her mind, he said. There's no changing her when she's made up her mind. We resumed playing cards and watching reruns of Boston Legal, a popular show in Tunis at the time. Ayman knew more about American television than I did. Are America's streets just like Wisteria Lane, he asked. What's that? You know, from Desperate Housewives? Oh, yeah, some of them, I said, not having the heart to tell him I didn't watch the show. Ayman was always with us. He decided that it was his duty to escort us through the streets of Tunis and beyond, accompanying us on a train ride to see the Roman amphitheater in El Jem, as well as the Bardo National Museum, and all throughout the labyrinthian Tunis Medina. At no time during these occasions was I able to propose marriage to Cassandra, which I was dead set on doing while in Tunisia. She loved the country. It boasts breathtakingly gorgeous landscapes, and certainly would be a better place to ask her the big question than Chicago. Too many people have used up the landmarks of our city. We both love the Chakal Mosaic, Four Seasons on Dearborn, but it's a site where many a question has been popped. No way was I going to drag Cassandra there to propose marriage. Another day, another botched chance to propose. Cassandra and I went to see Carthage outside the city, with Ayman, of course. I asked the kid if he might get scarce for a while, leaving me alone with my girlfriend and hopefully soon-to-be fiance. But you should not be alone. Why? It's not safe. Do you mean this is a dangerous area? No, he said, it's not that. So what could happen? You could get lost. You could get used. Getting used was what Ayman called getting ripped off. It was true, there were a few Tunisians who tried to swindle us out of a few of our dollars. There was a cab driver who tried to liberate a few dinar from us. But Ayman's fears were nevertheless not enough to stop me from fulfilling my quest. Cassandra decided that one place we might visit on our own was Sidi Bou Said, a beautiful seaside town outside of Tunis. She wanted to show me the shops, the cafes, and the sea that looked towards Sicily. We arranged to be dropped off and readied ourselves for a day of walking through the hilly streets and marveling at the blue and white buildings atop the Mediterranean. And it would be just the two of us, having ditched Ayman. As we planned to leave for Sidi Bou Said, Cassandra asked me why I was wearing a jacket. It was warm. No need for the extra layer. I'd stashed the ring in my coat pocket the day before, but Cassandra wasn't going to be seen with me if I wore a jacket in the heat. You look like one of those homeless guys that walk around wearing tons of layers all summer. Not knowing what else to do, I sandwiched the ring between the pages of Maeve McGuckian's The Book of the Angel. A thin text of only 87 pages, it seemed more secure than the pockets of my worn-out khakis. Why'd you bring a book? Cassandra asked. The question had no answer, at least none that I could share. Outside of the fact that the book was a conveyance for an engagement ring, that, to be truthful, I was considering giving her immediately just to the last B3 of the fucking thing. I never know what to say when she asks me this question. And it's a question I still get from her. We sit down to breakfast at some cafe or bistro and I hear, "Why'd you bring a book?" The implication seems to be that I find her company so tedious that I must bring a distraction, which is not the case. Cassandra knows me better than anyone. She ought to know that I always have a book on me, even if the occasion doesn't call for one. We go to the movies, I bring a book. You never know. I may have time before the trailers begin. We go on road trips, I bring a book. Road trips usually include stops at shops and stores I have no interest in, so why not have something to read? We go for lunch, I bring a book. The one time I didn't, Cassandra spent considerable time playing with her new smartphone, leaving me feeling ignored, angry, wondering why I had left my book at home. But this was picturesque Sidi Bou Said. Why on earth would I bring a book to this most beautiful of settings? Why, indeed? I couldn't tell her the truth, not yet. Instead, I shrugged my shoulders and said nothing, promptly irritating her. We walked for a while. I was getting anxious. I had to get rid of the goddamn ring. I'd had it in my pocket for 4 days. It traveled across an ocean with me, then from city to city in North Africa. Now it was inside a thin paperback book of poems. Or was it? I checked on the ring when I could, desperate to ensure it was safe. But when we arrived at a cafe for a light snack, I noticed that the bulge in the Book of the Angel was gone. Oh, fuck. I flipped through the pages. Nothing. I looked at my feet, at the ground around them, at the table. No ring. Oh, shit. I have to go to the bathroom, I blurted, then left before she had a chance to respond. As soon as I got to the toilet, I began searching my pockets and once again, the book. No ring. Oh, what the fuck, you idiot. There was nothing I could do. The ring was gone. I didn't leave it in the bedroom where I'd been sleeping. It wasn't in my jacket pocket. It wasn't in the Book of the Angel. I'd last seen it during an uphill walk before we entered a shop. Cassandra walked ahead of me a few paces, and I took the chance to confirm that the ring was still inside my book. I must have dropped it. I could go back and look for it, but how would I convince her to walk back with me to a shop we'd already been? I decided to just propose, to get it over with. She asked why I had no ring to present. I'd confess the truth. In hindsight, I see what a dumb idea that was. What woman would be happy to hear that her fiancé lost her engagement ring? In all likelihood, she'd reject my proposal, which, considering the level of idiocy on the part of the man asking for her hand, would be the smart move. I rejoined Cassandra. "You okay?" she asked. After a few awkward seconds, I said, "No puedo vivir sin ti." What? I repeated the sentence. Why are you speaking to me in your bad Spanish? Did I say it wrong? Pronunciation is terrible. Sorry. So why are you saying this to me? I want to marry you. I couldn't read her. Normally she's not one to mask her feelings. I can tell when she's angry, happy, tired. It's never really a mystery with her. But at that moment, I had no idea what was going through her head. She undid her poker face and let a smile form slowly. "Is that what this is for?" she asked, then opened her hand, revealing the ring. "Wait, how?" "In the store. I asked you to hold my camera. You gave me the book for a second. I felt it in there. And you took it? I wanted to scare you." Mission accomplished. I was relieved to the extent that I forgot about the lingering unanswered question. At that point, I wasn't sure it mattered. Cassandra, my beautiful imp, delights in fucking with me. Apparently, I make it easy. I was no longer nervous about being rejected, which, come to think of it, would have made for a very awkward flight home. I was just happy to find out that I was less of an idiot than I thought. The tea arrived. It smelled of mint and had some pine nuts floating in it. I drank it down like it was pure alcohol, calming my nerves. Sometime later, as we sat in the cafe drinking tea and marveling at the beauty of the Mediterranean Sea, Cassandra reminded me that I'd asked her to marry her, and, by the way, yes. "Really?" "Yes," she said. "Yes," I said. "Yes, I will, yes." "What?" "It's from a book," I said. "Shut up already."
Oh, that's wonderful. James Joyce would be very happy with you.
Oh, good catch. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Are you kidding? I've read that book many times.
Oh, nice.
Vincent, what's your website? Give us your information so people can contact you.
Anyone looking to contact me for any reason, I'll put it on the screen. You can go to www.vincentfrancone.com, which looks like that.
Okay. Thank you, Vincent. That was charming. And finally, we're going to hear from Bathsheba Monk. who's going to read to you from Now You See It, stories from Cokesville, PA. Go, Bathsheba.
Hello. Well, this is it's not exact, I guess it is romantic. It's from Now You See It, Stories from Cokesville, PA, my first collection of stories. And it's about Cupid's arrows gone astray. Mrs. Herbinko's birthday party. For God's sakes, hurry, loosen her girdle. The hooks are rusted, they won't come loose. There's the ambulance now. It's okay, Mother, the doctor is here. Gloria absently stroked her mother's face and wiped the drool from the corner of her mouth. Latonia Herbinko blinked at the mayhem around her and wondered why it was taking so long to die. The emergency squad ran into the room, their equipment knocking paper plates half filled with birthday cake and ice cream off the table. One medic took her pulse while the other shined a bright light in her eyes and peered in. What's her name? Mrs. Herbinko, Latonia. We think she had another stroke. Latonia, can you hear me? Mrs. Herbinko closed her eyes against the light. No one had called her Latonia since Ignatz died. She can't talk. She's had 3 strokes already. Get the oxygen over here. She's fading. The medic pushed on her chest. Mrs. Herbinko looked up at the medics brandishing hoses in her face and at her middle-aged daughters wringing their hands. All she wanted was to be free of her cumbersome body and reunited with her husband Ignatz, who had died in a mine disaster 40 years ago. That was all she thought about and prayed for ever since. She couldn't understand why these people were prolonging her agony. Leave me alone, she said simply. Mrs. Herbinko wished someone would take off her ridiculous party hat. They had been subjecting her to these birthday parties ever since her first stroke left her powerless to protest. The insult of dying while wearing the hat was more than she could bear. We're losing her, one of the medics yelled. Give me that syringe. He jabbed her indelicately in the chest. The injection thrust Mrs. Herbinko to the ceiling, where she looked down on the scene below. Her daughters were hysterical, and the medics were shaking their heads. But she talked, one of her daughters was saying. That happens sometimes, right before. The medic turned off his valves. Mrs. Herbinko didn't hear anymore. She felt so light. The chaos beneath her was getting dimmer and smaller. She saw Father Pavlik come into the house. No one bothered to remove her birthday hat. The air around her was blue and cold. She let herself get sucked into the stream that carried her away. This is great, she thought. She wiggled a little to let the cool air circulate around her body, and she drifted until she came across a slightly pudgy, middle-aged man who had a strange orangish-red glow about him. Who are you? Mrs. Herbinko asked. Raoul. Raoul, I'm Mrs. Herbinko. She noted with some annoyance that her speech was still garbled, but Raoul didn't seem to have any difficulty understanding her. What's that glow? She asked. We all get it, he said. This was all so new that Mrs. Herbinko felt she should ask some questions. I really thought my speech would be better. Did you? What's wrong with it? And my arm, look, it still doesn't work. She held it up at the other arm, dismayed. I don't think you'll have to use it. I thought we were all supposed to be in a perfected state here, like when we were 16. She said this a little critically. I know what you mean. I thought I would drop a few years and a few pounds. He laughed and rubbed his belly delightedly. Who you were at 16 is not the person you've become. Anyway, where would you draw the line? Are you your most perfect when you were exactly 16 years old? Or are you more perfect when you are 16 and a half? There are so many variables and not enough time, really, to work out the details. Mrs. Herbinko could see the logic, but was disappointed nonetheless. She didn't want Ignatz to see her like this. After 40 years and 4 strokes, he had a roving eye and was so easily distracted. She always imagined they would be like when they were on their wedding night. I wouldn't think that would be such a problem for him. She looked nervous. I am in the right place, aren't I? Oh, yes, you're here all right. I guess with your strokes, you didn't have much opportunity to misbehave. She settled in next to him, adjusting to her new surroundings. She could hang in the air without actually sitting, and she was able to get around without her wheelchair, even though her left side was still paralyzed. Do I have to have an interview or anything? Oh, no, you're here, you're in. Well, she said, looking around, what do I do now? You can do whatever you like. May I see somebody? Of course. If they're here, that is. I'm sure he is. Ignatz Herbinko. He fooled around a little bit, but I prayed for him for the last 40 years that we would be united here. How can I find out if he's here? We'll have to look at the plenary indulgence statistical file. Raoul led her effortlessly through the atmosphere to a pond filled with golden letters like a magical alphabet soup. You know, she said, nothing here is as I would have thought. Don't you know him? I'm surprised you don't know everyone without this sort of thing. Afraid not. He bent his head low over the pond. To her astonishment, words were forming out of the disarray. Goodness, you've said enough novenas to get 150 souls in, but you've only credited Ignaz Herbinko's account. Look, here it all is. Your first novena did it, actually. Mrs. Herbinko was feeling awkward now that the anticipated moment was approaching. He left a young woman and would now see a worn-out old lady. What if he doesn't recognize me? Oh, he'll recognize you. They zoomed through the cold air at an exhilarating pace. He's been looking over you all this time. It's the rule, kind of like saving someone's life below, but in reverse. He's responsible for you. But wait, will he have aged? Will I know him? Here we are. Raoul stopped suddenly. The only person in sight was a small, older man. He was entirely bald. When he saw them approach, his glow became almost blinding, so Mrs. Herbinko couldn't see his face. Ignaz Herbinko, I have Latonia Herbinko here, Raoul cried out, pleased with his part in this reunion. Latonia! She squinted into his brilliance. She couldn't see his features clearly, but they weren't exactly as she remembered them. The man took both her hands in his own. Latonia, you made it. If her memory of Ignaz's appearance was foggy, her memory of his touch was clear. Mm-hmm. This man's hands on her were too gentle. Ignaz's were rough, a little cruel even. This isn't my husband. Of course it is, Raoul said. I know my husband, Mrs. Herbinko said. Sir, Raoul said officiously, what is your name? Ignaz Herbinko. See, Raoul said triumphantly, turning to Mrs. Herbinko as if the matter were settled. Well, it's not the Ignaz Herbinko I was married to. Nevertheless, the plenary indulgence statistical file indicated that this is the man you prayed for. How do you know who I prayed for? Doesn't he know who I prayed for? Really, Mrs. Herbinko, there must be thousands of Ignaz Herbinkos. You have to be specific. How are we supposed to know which one you meant? Remember when we looked in the plenary indulgence statistical file? How many Ignaz Herbinkos were there? I saw only one. Well, you're right, actually. Raoul looked perplexed. There is only one, the latest Ignaz Herbinko said. Your husband was born Ignaz Shebenko, and that's how he's registered up here. When he went to America, immigration officials couldn't spell it and made him Herbinko. Who are you? Mrs. Herbinko asked crossly. Ignaz Herbinko. Right. Well, how do you know so much about us? I certainly don't know you. She narrowed her eyes. I know all about you, he said meekly. I've been your guardian for the last 40 years, since you got me up here and all. The rule, remember? Some guardian. I've had 4 strokes and I've been treated like a child. Ignaz would have never have let that happen to me, she said. It seemed like it was in your best interest. You were such a lusty thing. His eyes shone a little, remembering her before her strokes. I'm sure you would have gotten into some serious trouble if you were able, and you wouldn't be here now. That wasn't for you to decide, Mrs. Herbinko said. You were so pretty. I wanted to make sure I would see you up here. That's very selfish. I wasted 40 years of my life. I could have been having fun. You'll have a lot longer to have fun up here, Ignaz said. Well, it doesn't seem like much fun so far. I can't find my husband because of some sort of bureaucratic snafu, and nothing makes any sense. At least down there, they shove birthday cake in my mouth every now and then. Indeed, some crumbs still quivered on her upper lip. Ignaz Herbinko saw them too and tenderly brushed them off. I'm terribly sorry you're not happy, he said. It's not your fault, I guess, although nothing is going according to plan. She was finding it increasingly hard to stay angry. Mrs. Herbinko noticed him for the first time. Actually, he was nice, even if he had ruined everything. That tremendous glow certainly helped his appearance, as did the way he looked at her. Her Ignaz never looked at her that way, at least not for very long. He was afraid he would miss some other woman if he looked too long at her. Ignaz Herbinko took her hand. I'd like to show you around. It takes some getting used to up here. Well, I guess so. I have so many questions. What happened to Raoul? Look, you're starting to glow. It's beautiful. So I am. What a wonderful shade. They admired her color for a while. Then Ignaz Rubinko reached over and carefully pulled off Mrs. Rubinko's birthday party hat.
What a wonderful story. What a delightful way to end the show. Okay, so look, gang, this was pretty good. And everybody out there, this is social distancing. We're going to be back. We're going to be back soon. And thank you all for being here. And I hope you all enjoyed it tonight. We did. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.